The city of Tel Aviv was unusually silent that night. It wasn't the type of silence that brought peace. It was the tense silence that came before a storm. In the heart of the city, inside an unmarked, steel-walled briefing room buried beneath a defense complex, 6 men sat around a table with faces carved by suspicion. Among them, Mossad director Eli Navon, grizzled and sharp-eyed, placed a leather-bound folder on the table. "Operation Hayalid is complete," he said, sliding the folder across to Defense Minister Yoav Zer. "We now have confirmation. Iran is stockpiling high-density uranium in an underground facility that doesn't exist on any map. Not even Russian satellites caught it. Only the Turkish hackers we hired traced the data trail." Yoav opened the folder and narrowed his eyes. "This changes everything. Only if we play it smart," said General Levy Carman, lighting a cigarette despite the no-smoking sign. "You go to the public with this, Tehran will deny everything. The world media, they'll twist it. We need a different game." Illy leaned forward. "That's why we leak it indirectly, not through CNN, not BBC. We'll use independent journalists in Europe, get it to look like an anti-Zionist expose. When people question it, it gains more traction. Then we deliver the real intel after chaos has brewed." "Controlled chaos," muttered Yoav. "You want to spark protests in Tehran, using fake leaks that lead them to deny real evidence." "Exactly," Illy said. "We make them deny the truth before we even reveal it." Meanwhile, across the border in the underbelly of Tehran, Commander Farhad Vaziri, head of Iran's Quds Force, stormed into a candle-lit war room beneath a mosque in South Mehrabad. The faces around him were hardened soldiers, clerics, and one veiled woman with intelligence credentials sharper than anyone else in the room. "You heard the news," Vaziri growled. The woman, known only as Layla, nodded. "They're spreading disinfo." European sites lit up with chatter that were preparing a chemical strike on Kurdish dissidents in Iraq. "A lie, but..." She paused. "A dangerous one." Vaziri's voice rose. "It's Israel, only they operate with this finesse. They're trying to bait us." A soft-spoken cleric, Ayatollah Mazin, entered slowly, leaning on a cane. "You must not respond impulsively, Commander. That's what they want." Vaziri slammed his fist. "We cannot wait. If they're spreading lies, it's to cover truth. We need to move every scientist out of Fordo and Natanz today." Layla shifted in her seat. "And if we do, the West will assume guilt, and Israel wins." A thick silence followed. While leaders played shadows with one another, a storm was brewing online. Independent journalist Damien Roth, a controversial figure exiled from Germany due to alleged security leaks, was sent a mysterious flash drive from a Turkish source claiming it contained the truth about Israel's plans. The email said only, "If you publish this, prepare to run. Truth is a gun." Damien plugged the drive into his old ThinkPad and leaned back as encrypted documents exploded across his screen. Photographs of Israeli airstrikes on Iranian supply convoys, videos of underground Iranian facilities, voice notes in Farsi, and something worse, a kill list. Scientists, commanders, and even foreign diplomats mocked for assassination. He stared at the screen in disbelief. "Jesus Christ," he whispered. His editor, Mara Klein, called from Zurich. "Did you get it?" "Yeah, I got it. This isn't a leak. This is a digital warhead." In a quiet cafe in Istanbul, Layla met a shadowy informant known only as Sargon. A former Mossad asset turned rogue. He arrived wearing a fisherman's cap and spoke in Hebrew-accented English. "They've activated Operation Hayalid," he said. Layla's eyes narrowed. "That's not a recon plan. That's prelude to open war." Sargon nodded. "But they are not looking to fight Iran directly. They want civil unrest, a coup. They're feeding proof of government corruption to underground Shia militias. Their goal, collapse the Supreme Council from within." "And what's your goal?" Layla asked. "To stop bloodshed. You pay me, I give you the names of the Israeli diplomats coordinating with rebel proxies in Azerbaijan and Jordan." Layla hesitated. "And what makes you think I won't kill you right now?" "Because you're smarter than Vaziri. You don't kill messengers, you kill liars." She smirked. "Then speak." Back in Tel Aviv, Illy sat in a dark room watching BBC nightly broadcast. Damien Roth's expose had just aired. The world was in uproar. Hashtags trended globally, #false flag, #leaked intel, #Middle East lies. Yov burst in. You idiot, the Americans are furious. Biden just called the leaks show that we manipulated not only the press, but also NATO's intelligence grid. Illy didn't flinch. Let them scream. In 72 hours, Iran will implode. And what if it doesn't? Then we make sure it does. Illy said coldly, sliding a USB across the table. This goes to the Saudis. We tell them that Tehran is planning a cyber attack on their nuclear reactor. When they retaliate, we step back and let the fire burn. You want to start a regional war, Yov whispered. Illy stood. I want to finish one. That night, in a secure bunker in Qom, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Afsar met with Vaziri, Layla, and 3 other generals. The mood was grim. Our enemies have declared war without saying the word. Afsar said, we are under attack not with bombs, but with perception. Vaziri clenched his jaw. Let us respond with force. Layla raised a hand. Force or finesse, there's another way. Afsar looked at her. I say we create a fake operation, one that looks so real it terrifies Israel into second, guessing themselves. What do you propose? A ghost fleet, she said. No real ships, no real missiles, but digital footprints showing we're preparing a strike from the Gulf. Every satellite, every radar, every naval scan will see it. Panic in Tel Aviv will force them to show their real hand. Afsar leaned back, stroking his beard. Ghosts against ghosts, a war of illusions. On June 22, Israeli drones were scrambled as Iranian warships appeared to form in the Persian Gulf, 12 of them. Mossad went into red alert. Panic in the Knesset. The Prime Minister fled to a secure location, but no warships were found. Just phantom echoes, projections, decoys, manipulated data. Yov screamed at Illy, this is a trap. They're playing us. Illy stared at the monitor. No, this can't be. We control the Gulf sensors. You did, Yov said, but someone just hacked us. Suddenly, the feed shifted. A broadcast began, hacked into every news network in the region. Layla's voice echoed across the screen, masked but clear, to the people of Israel. Ask your leaders why your soldiers are dying in lies. To the world, the war you fear is not between Iran and Israel, it's between truth and manipulation. You are all being used. In Tehran, the streets erupted in cautious hope. In Tel Aviv, chaos unfolded, and in Washington, the president demanded answers from both allies. As Illy stood in his office watching the fallout, his phone rang. He picked it up. I warned you, said a voice. Truth is a gun. It was Damian Roth. And before Illy could answer, the line went dead and the power in the building cut out the silence inside Mossad's Tel Aviv Operations Command wasn't just the absence of noise, it was fear, raw and unfiltered, settling into every crevice. The blackout that had struck the intelligence center was not just a power outage. It was a direct cyber intrusion. For 6 entire minutes, Israel's most secure facility was off-grid. When the emergency lights flickered back on, Illy Navon stood frozen. Screens rebooted slowly, but the data was scrambled, files corrupted. System compromised. Where is the backup data? Illy barked. We had it on an isolated server. Stammered a technician. Had. Illy repeated. It's gone, wiped. Down to the hardware. Illy turned to General Carmen. This wasn't an Iranian hack. This was internal. Carmen stared hard at him. Are you suggesting a mole? No, Illy muttered. I'm suggesting something worse. In a secret bunker beneath Tehran's central telecom exchange, Layla stared at a black screen that slowly morphed into lines of cascading code. Commander Vaziri stood behind her, eyes narrowed. We've shut their central analysis node for 6 minutes, she said, long enough for our payload to self-activate inside their emergency AI network. Vaziri crossed his arms, and what did the payload do? Rewrote their intel tags. Every Iranian general, scientist, and facility now mislabeled with fake GPS. If they send a strike, they'll be hitting sand. Vaziri smiled for the first time in weeks. You've turned their eyes blind. Blind eyes shoot the fastest. Layla said, they'll panic. Ayatollah Afsar entered the room. So, you've bought us time. But time means nothing unless we control the narrative. Let the world see Israel's panic. Layla already had a plan, then we plant a journalist. Inside, thousands of miles away, Damian Roth had vanished. His apartment in Brussels had been wiped clean. Not a single hard drive, not a shred of evidence, only one message was left taped to his door in Hebrew. Silence is safer than freedom. E.N. But Damien was not dead. In fact, he was very much alive in a warehouse in Albania, surrounded by 4 laptops, a satellite uplink, and a man known only as Hadi, a former Mossad signals officer turned whistleblower. "You're playing with fire," Hadi said, eyes scanning the sky outside. Damien didn't look up. "Fire's the only thing that burns away lies." He clicked open a private server and uploaded more files. These are recordings of Israeli officials orchestrating cyber leaks, fabricating attacks from Hezbollah, and planting explosive devices near Jordanian oil fields to provoke diplomatic retaliation. Hadi exhaled. "You realize if these go public, Mossad will launch a black op, not just to kill you, to erase you." "I don't want safety," Damien said. "I want impact." Back in Tel Aviv, Prime Minister Jonathan Berg convened an emergency cabinet session. For the first time in decades, there was no consensus. "This administration is losing its grip," shouted Finance Minister Halevy. "Cyber systems are compromised, foreign relations collapsing. Even our American allies are demanding explanations. We need a controlled military operation to regain narrative," barked Defense Minister Teaser. But Eli Navon raised his hand. "No, not yet. We use this chaos. We stage an attack on ourselves." The room went silent. "You want to blow up Israeli soil," someone whispered. "A controlled explosion near our northern military base. Blame it on Iranian proxies. Let the people beg us to retaliate." Jonathan looked horrified. "That's treason." "No," Ili said calmly, "that's control." Outside the chamber, General Carmen walked away without a word, but the twitch in his jaw betrayed his boiling conscience. At the Iranian embassy in Ankara, Layla, dressed as a Turkish translator, handed a small USB to a diplomat from Pakistan. "Deliver this to your intelligence chief," she whispered. "It contains Israel's cyber attack plan on your infrastructure disguised as Iranian aggression." The diplomat hesitated. "Why are you giving us this?" "Because you'll leak it, and when you do, the regional powers will know Israel is the puppeteer." He raised an eyebrow. "And what do you want in return?" Layla smiled. "Nothing. Chaos needs no receipt." In Riyadh, Saudi intelligence intercepted a comm from Tel Aviv, one that confirmed Ili's operation. Within hours, Crown Prince Khalid summoned his top advisors. "They plan to manipulate us into war." Again, his military chief spoke up. "What shall we do?" Khalid paused. "We do what they fear most. We talk to Iran." At dawn in Geneva, a quiet meeting took place between Saudi, Iranian, and Qatari envoys. No press, no official statements, only one shared goal: to expose a hidden enemy working behind all sides. Layla attended in secret, posing as a Qatari tech advisor. She handed them a final gift, a decrypted audio file. It was Eli Navon's voice. "If the Arabs ever unite, we are finished. So we keep them afraid, separate, distracted, give them war, and they'll never notice who's behind the curtain." The room froze. "Is this real?" the Saudi envoy asked. "It's signed and stamped." Layla said, "Welcome to the truth." That night, back in Tel Aviv, Ili received a secure call. "It's done," said his internal agent. "Explosion ready. Public will see it at 3 a.m. "Good," Ili said. "Prepare the press packet. By 8 a.m. Tehran will be condemned, and we strike." But the explosion never happened. Why? Because the detonation team, Elite Mossad Field Unit 474, never showed up. And when they were tracked down, all 4 agents were found dead. Autopsies confirmed. Poisoned. By whom? The only clue was a card in one agent's coat pocket. It read, "You don't control the board anymore." As dawn broke over Tel Aviv, breaking news erupted from Al Jazeera. Leaked Israeli tapes suggest false flag plans. Saudi and Iranian officials confirm joint intelligence effort to stop regional deception. UN Security Council demands investigation. Ili stared blankly at the screen. "Impossible," he muttered. Yov teaser barged in. "You swore they'd never find out." "They didn't," Ili snapped. "Someone inside helped them." General Carmen entered quietly and laid his Mossad ID card on the table. "I did," he said. Illy's voice dropped to a whisper. "You betrayed your country." Carmen looked straight at him. "No, I saved it." And with that, armed security entered and arrested Illy Navon, not on foreign orders, but under internal charges. The era of shadow war was no longer in the shadows. The news of Illy Navon's arrest sent shockwaves through Israel's political and intelligence networks. Every major channel in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East ran a single headline: "The spy who framed the war." Inside the interrogation room at an undisclosed location north of Tel Aviv, Illy sat motionless, arms shackled to the table. Across from him was Colonel Danny Saar, head of internal Mossad affairs. The room had no windows. Just a blinking red camera light in the corner and the dull hum of vengeance hanging in the air. "You weren't just playing, Iran, were you?" Danny asked, voice calm. Illy didn't blink. "I was protecting the state. By staging attacks on your own soil. By creating clarity. Fear brings clarity. Fear unites the public. You think people care about justice. They care about feeling safe. And the truth," he leaned in, "the truth gets people killed." Danny placed a recording device on the table. "You'll explain everything. Start with Operation Keter. Why did you authorize the false flag in the Golan Heights last year?" Illy laughed. "You think I authorized it?" Danny frowned. "I didn't." Illy's smile faded. "It was greenlit from above." "Above?" Danny asked slowly. "You were the top man in Mossad." Illy's voice dropped. "Not above government, above nation." Danny's eyes narrowed. "The committee," Illy whispered. "You think we were rogue? We were following orders from the architects, the ones who built the game decades ago. In Washington, D.C., National Security Advisor Rachel McIntyre met with CIA Director Gavin Holt in the basement briefing room of Langley. The screen in front of them showed satellite intercepts, leaked documents, and a chilling voice recording from the Saudi-Iranian Intel Summit. "They're forming a joint intelligence pact," Gavin said, pouring himself a drink. Rachel blinked. "Iran and Saudi Arabia, that's a joke." "It was," Gavin muttered. "Not anymore." She turned to him. "You realize what this means?" He nodded. "If they unite under a shared intelligence doctrine, Israel loses its position as the region's primary U.S. partner. The American-led balance collapses. So we're back to Cold War logic." "No," he said. "Worse, this is ideological realignment. If this continues, the entire region could decouple from the West." Rachel leaned in. "We need leverage. We need someone who knows how the entire Mossad structure was manipulated." Gavin smirked. "We already have him." Inside a private military hospital in Haifa, General Levi Carmen was placed under protective custody. His whistleblower act had made him a hero to some and a traitor to others. But his mind wasn't on politics, it was on Layla. On a heavily encrypted satellite phone, he finally dialed a number stored in his memory. She answered after 3 rings, her voice cautious. "I didn't think you'd call." "You always said the war wasn't with bombs," Carmen replied. "You were right. I'm not interested in being right. I'm interested in not watching cities burn. I want to meet." She hesitated. "Where?" "Neutral ground, Tbilisi. I'll come alone. I'll come with backup," she said, and the line clicked dead. In a nondescript building in Tbilisi, Georgia, Layla and Carmen sat across from each other for the first time since the Beirut operation. 5 years earlier, when they were still allies before the world pushed them to opposite sides. "You still wear the same watch," she said. "You still never wear one," he replied. The conversation went silent for a long moment. "Everything Illy did," she said softly. "The false flags, the manipulations, it was all to keep Israel safe." "No," Carmen replied. "It was to keep certain people in power." "Who?" He looked around. "There's a group buried under layers of shell companies, intelligence cutouts, and historical institutions. They don't report to any government." Layla leaned in. "So not the Mossad?" "No, they own Mossad, or parts of it. The same ones who own the security firms guarding oil pipelines in Basra, and the ones who wrote half the region's telecom protocols." "And what do they want?" "Stalemate, constant tension, never war, never peace, just the endless in-between." Layla was quiet. "That's not intelligence, that's a slow death." Carmen nodded. "That's the point." Back in Brussels, Damien Roth's second expose hit the dark web before it reached the mainstream. This time, it wasn't just Israel or Iran in the spotlight, it was multinational contractors, CIA Black Ops in Jordan, and even the UK MI6 funding disinformation campaigns inside Lebanon to justify arms sales. One particular document shocked even hardened readers, an interagency memo from a covert UN task force stating, "If direct conflict breaks out between Israel and Iran, the UN must delay intervention for no less than 14 days to allow market realignment and institutional defense contracting. Stabilize global portfolios." The memo leaked, and the world burned. Protests erupted in Berlin, Paris, Cairo, Istanbul, even New York. People screamed for transparency, but government scrambled. Inside the White House, President Emerson Clark stared at the leaked footage with haunted eyes. "Tell me this isn't real," he asked. His aide didn't speak. "Get me Riyadh, get me Tehran, and get me Tel Aviv." Now, in Tehran, Layla stood in front of the Council of Experts, delivering a live debrief broadcast internally to Iran's upper military elite. "We now know that the enemies we fight aren't just countries, they are systems. Invisible hands banking on our pain." One general stood. "Are you proposing we ally with Israel?" "No," Layla said. "I propose we ally with truth. And the people who are willing to risk everything for it, even if they once wore the enemy's uniform." The general didn't speak, but neither did he object. In Tel Aviv, Carmen took the stage at a closed door Knesset hearing, his voice calm, his body bruised from an attempted assassination. "That morning, I come not to protect Iran," he said, "but to save Israel from itself." He exposed every operation, the lies, the cover-ups, the deaths. Ili Navon, watching from his prison cell, simply shook his head and whispered, "You just lit a match in a dry forest." Carmen closed his hearing with 6 words, "If we fall, let it be honest." The final twist came from an unexpected place. Damien Roth, now a global figure, received one final leak, a high-priority document from a U.S. intelligence source codenamed Orpheus. The document proved that Iran's nuclear program had been peaceful since 2019, verified by private European inspectors silenced by both American and Israeli lobbies. The file contained photos, audio, and one damning video. Ili Navon, speaking in a 2021 classified summit. "Peace is bad for business. War gives us budgets. Peace gives us unemployment." It wasn't just a soundbite, it was a confession. It was past midnight in New York when the United Nations Security Council convened its first unscheduled emergency summit in over 20 years. Every seat was filled, every camera rolling, and every diplomat on edge. Leaks had broken the back of the geopolitical order, and for once, the world demanded accountability. In the center of the chamber stood Layla Farhani, invited not as an Iranian agent, but as an independent security analyst and whistleblower. Her voice, calm but forceful, echoed through the hall. For decades, this chamber has met in the name of peace while allowing those outside it to write the terms of war. The world is not divided between Israel and Iran, or Sunni and Shia, or East and West. It is divided between those who profit from chaos and those who suffer under it. Silence fell, even the U.S. ambassador leaned forward. Layla gestured toward the digital screen beside her. Images flashed. Covert Israeli sabotage missions, CIA false flag blueprints, British contractors fueling fake reports, and most damning of all, the Orpheus file, proving Iran's nuclear innocence since 2019. "Millions have died," she said, "because peace became unprofitable." Across the room, Damien Roth recorded every word live, streaming it to 22 million viewers online. The mainstream media had hesitated, but the people hadn't. In Tel Aviv, Prime Minister Yonatan Berg faced his own crisis. With Ili Navon in custody, Mossad fractured, and military chiefs resigning in waves, the foundation of Israeli national strategy crumbled. Inside the war room, Yonatan turned to General Saar, who stood pale and expressionless. "They want my resignation," Yonatan said. Saar didn't respond. "You think I should do it?" Saar finally spoke. "I think if you don't, your own people might burn down the Knesset." Berg nodded slowly. "Then maybe I go before the fire reaches the roof. Later that evening, the Prime Minister took the podium. My fellow citizens, we have lost sight of who we are, and more importantly, of why we fight. I will step down, and in doing so, I urge the next leaders to chase truth, not shadows. It was the first time in Israeli history a leader stepped down mid-term over war deception. In Tehran, President Sadig Mahdavi watched the speech in stunned silence. He had prepared for escalation, for retaliation, for martyrdom, not for an olive branch. His chief advisor asked, "What now, Sadig?" He took a long breath. "Now we do what they never expected. We hold peace hostage." His advisor frowned. "I don't understand." Sadig smiled faintly. "We offer peace, real peace, and demand the world meet us halfway. No more games, no more secrets. We'll bring them to the table, or expose them again." Behind the scenes, the world's shadow players, the committee, the silent cabal that Elie Navon had hinted at, gathered in Zurich. Representatives from private military firms, old aristocratic families, global finance networks, and rogue intelligence remnants sat around a candlelit table. A man known only as V spoke first. "We underestimated them." Another, an older French woman called Elise, spoke next. "No, we underestimated the people, the storytellers, the defectors, the ones who don't follow protocol. They've turned our methods against us," said an XMI6 man, using leaks, media, sympathy, weaponized truth. V leaned forward. "Then we give them a choice, chaos or controlled amnesty." But Elise shook her head. "That won't work anymore. You can't bribe a revolution." "And what do you suggest?" V asked coldly. She stared him down. "We vanish, reset, let the world feel like it won something, then we wait." 3 days later, a global truce was signed in Geneva, a provisional, imperfect peace, but the first true diplomatic document co-signed by Israel, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United States. But it wasn't politicians who claimed credit. It was the whistleblowers, the hackers, the journalists. It was Layla, Damien, Carmen, the people who had risked everything not for victory, but for visibility. Yet even as the world exhaled, not everyone was at peace. In a dim alley in London, Damien received a call. "You did it," Layla's voice said. "You ripped the curtain." Damien nodded, phone pressed to his ear. "We exposed the game." "No," Layla replied. "We just made it harder to play, but they're still out there." "I know. You ready for what comes next?" He paused. "I'm already recording, and somewhere in Zurich." The committee began their next move, not with warheads, but with stories, because they'd learned something from their fall. The best lies survive not in silence, but inside truths that feel just believable enough. And thus, the world didn't end in fire, it ended in revelation, and now, what came next was entirely in the hands of those watching, you.